In this part, we will create stills, but not like stills, but how I like to call them, dynamic stills, where we will have the car driving, but that will be a still image, and we will use HDRI for that, so you know how to create the still image with motion blur, as adding the motion blur later may be problematic and make some more time for you to do that. And we'll use HDRI and make the wheels spin and the motion blur on the background. So let's open our level with the HDRI which we have created previously. We will replace this one with the one which I already downloaded. This is the one, the Awesome Road, also from the Polyhaven, and you have some, renders there. So we'll try to make something similar to that. And let's snap back to Unreal Engine. For HDRI, I already downloaded it here, so we can just take this one and apply. In the skylight, we also need to check that it has the cube map resolution 1024. It's all working fine. It currently uses the camera projection. I don't want the camera projection to be created, so let's just disable the camera projection for now. Use camera projection, disable that, and we'll try to place our basically car in the scene, so something like that. Just let's have a look how it looks like. Obviously our car is a little bit small for the road, should be bigger, but we'll see how it will look in our render. After that, let's just enable editor update. I think it is disabled here, so it will stand on the ground properly. So let's select this. Okay, it already actually looks cool, but we will do some fine adjustments for this, so to see how better it can be. I actually want to change the color of the car just because I think something more like spicy can be there. Let's change it to cherry red. I'm just like trying to pick what should look better. I like this one, looks cool, but maybe just red. Car paint red would be really nice. It's a little bit darker and probably more saturated. Oh yeah, that looks cool. I think that will do. Yes, it already looks much better. And right now let's snap into the camera actor, and we need to place our camera actor actually in the center of the scene. So we will have our camera right in the center here. Just put it up a little bit. Maybe let's make it a little bit wider angle, like 18, maybe 20 millimeters for the focal length, and a little bit higher so we don't have the stretch of our let's say like nature here. So yeah, that's probably too high. Let's put it a little bit lower. If you have any like troubles with that one, you can move the car first. Let's move it in the frame. Just trying to catch this. Damn it. Yes, this one. Yeah. So you can change either to use the gizmo for world location or world rotation or actor. So sometimes this one is more appropriate because you can just like move front and back. So definitely our car is just too small for that, because like looks like a toy car. And for that reason we have the car scale, so we can increase the car scale. Sometimes it just doesn't fit properly in the scene and you need to adjust this one. Again, let's open the window, the second viewport with our camera like this, and let's see what suits better. Probably like that. You can also try playing around with the scale 500. Yeah, see what is happening? That we have this dark strange thing there, but it will be fixed a little bit later in the light setup which we will make. So I think the car can even be scaled 2 times. Yeah, that looks much more real, so yes. And we can also stretch. If we go and select the HDRI, we can stretch how far is our like, it basically stretches the projection so you can make it higher or lower. So you will see that at some point you have that properly like stretched. It's not like over squeezed or just like, you know, completely destroyed. So we need to readjust this position. Something like that probably looks fine. And adjust the car here. Projection center like this. And maybe we can move a car a little bit like this. Okay, fine. I like this for now, but let's introduce some, like, we have one thing like we have proper shadow, but it just feels for me that the contrast of our image, as I mentioned before, that sometimes you can really see that well, that the contrast between the blacks in HDRI and the car model is a little bit off. So first of all, let's see what the light factor distance can fix our like yes. So we managed to fix this one by decreasing the lighting factor distance, so we don't have this like strange, you know, line which makes it like why it is there. So basically we have changed the gradient of how the light passes to the other sides of the HDRI. So 0.2 for this one works nice. So you can play around. It really depends on the HDRI and the lighting. And let's add sunlight, so it will give us additional shadow, because this one is just like blocking shadow which is happening under the car, but we need to add some additional shadow from this light source, so to support basically our HDRI with this light source. So let's add light, directional light, and you'll see we have a little bit more of this shadow under the car. And we need to, in order to see our like disk in the atmosphere, we need to add also visual effects and sky atmosphere. So now we can see the sun, and let's put it just like in the place where HDRI sun is located. It will also give us nice reflection on the car, and we will have see that this is the shadow, and it will have the bloom settings which we will add right now. So with our camera, again, we can go 1.8 probably to make it a little bit brighter, as it was very like cloudy and moody. And to make this shadow a little bit more soft, we can go and set up the angle for our source angle and source soft angle to make this shadow a little bit smoother. And probably we also can reduce this skylight directional light intensity, because otherwise it's like too strong and probably doesn't look real. So yeah, kind of like that. So let's keep it like something like about 2 or 3. So there's just like a little bit of that. And switching to our post-process settings, we can actually check what we can also set up. Let's see if we have the contrast scale, shadow contrast scale. So we need to balance basically our HDRI with the blacks on there and increase the highlight. So see how over bright it is, and we don't want that. So let's decrease the highlight contrast and increase a little bit the contrast scale of the shadows. Also, as I mentioned, I just feel that HDRI doesn't look that contrasty as it's supposed to be. So let's set up the curve here. So let's make it 1.2, the brightness curve. Well, now it looks a little bit better, and maybe 0.9 of the brightness. So because sometimes it's just like, see, the shadow is even better, because it's all emissive light. Like the HDRI is emissive itself, and by introducing the shadow with also supporting that by the directional light, we can create, you know, this realistic feeling here. So yeah, if you'd like, you can also add some 3D grass there, download them from Megascans and just like, you know, put a bunch of them. But right now, let's just switch into animation mode and create our sequence for HDRI. So that will be cinematics, level sequence, LS, HDRI, Porsche 001. And now let's add the Porsche here, add actor. Well, we don't care right now about FPS, but it's always better, just general practice, to set it 24, because we'll be rendering just one frame. And after we added that, let's look for burnout front, and let's another burnout rare, and set both of them, and set something to small value like 1. Yeah, I know that probably that sounds strange, like, hey, it's rotating slowly, but in order to get proper and beautiful motion blur, we need to accumulate more samples, and because we will be using more samples, that will blur our wheels anyway. Let's get our camera right now into the sequence, and let's play around a little bit with exposure. So exposure compensation manual, maybe 7. Like it a little bit more. Maybe we can even bump up highlight contrast scale. Oh, actually yes, it gives a little bit, because we reduced the exposure. We now gained a little bit of details there. And the next thing what we can do, actually, let's get a contrast scale, a shadow contrast scale. Yeah, otherwise it just kills the information in the trees. But anyway, that for me right now it looks nice. Let's play around a little bit with the sun and the bloom in our camera method convolution. We can add some more like this, so we will have this nice thing. It's not actually like accurate or realistic, but we can just play around to see what we can do to get some additional feeling into that. Okay, right now that is done, and we have motion blur on the wheels, but we don't have the motion blur on HDRI. Well, you can add that in Photoshop, but obviously we would like to avoid that, right? So in that case, we can add also our HDRI backdrop and add transform track. Click here, set it to linear, and probably like that, or even shorter. That should be just 1 frame. And our purpose here is just move the HDRI a little bit back, so we will have this like really nice motion blur. And just basically select the actor, which for this one doesn't work this way. Select the actor and move it just like in 2 frames, make it move really fast from side to side. And also you should be able to get the angle, like if you look through the camera, you should monitor that and be sure that it will not be, stretched here or something, because we don't want the HDRI to look weird, but we also need to blur that and make it move really, really fast. So let's go back to the first keyframe here and move it just a little bit. Obviously, there are some HDRIs already with this motion blur enabled. Okay, so transform here and select the second one and move it there. So basically trying to, mimic this move. Because if we use camera projection, it will not give us the desired result. So see, just like it's moving a little bit, but probably it would need also a little bit of rotation, as we have some stretching here. So let's also add some rotation, because we don't want the stretching. Transform that. It will be just a little bit of motion blur, but we can speed this up, this movement, just make it move just for 1 frame. So the shorter the distance, the faster it goes, like 1 frame. And that should be probably just enough to give us a little bit of motion blur for our HDRI. Also, alternative method for getting the motion blur during the movement into HDRI is to transform the position of our car and connect our camera to the car, which will create this motion blur on these objects which are closer to the car, and obviously what's on behind will be not blurred. Well, because it's like physically realistic, the objects which are further from the camera will not be affected by motion blur. So what we can do here is just like first let's animate our car. So let's move it in the frame -1. Let's move it somewhere here approximately and hit the transform. In order to add the transform track, click here and add transform. Always linear because we don't want it to accelerate or deaccelerate. And the frame number 5, for example, let's move it into our desired position or maybe a little bit further away. And right now let's connect the camera and see what we can have from this point. So we will not have this weird stretching also because we are rendering one frame. And at this point, we don't need actually any more of burnout because the car wheels will be rotating automatically anyway as it is traveling. And now let's attach the car to our camera to our car. Doesn't matter again what we are picking here because anyway we want it to be connected to camera mount component. Camera mount. Okay. Now let's move our camera properly, position it like that. Yeah, something like this, so we don't have this weird stretching, and that looks fine. And when the car, it just drives and it will drive fast in this case. Okay, maybe we can move it even a little bit further to give more speed. So let's just move it a little bit further away. So for this distance which we are using, that covering this distance, we will have more of the speed. So we would like to take something like between 4 and 5, maybe. Let's stretch it a little bit and see what we can have here. Yes, and frame number 6, from frame number 6 to frame number 7, we will have the proper position of the HDRI, and it will be blurred and will not be stretched. So we will still have the proper thing, and it will be a really nice motion blur when we get to the render stage. Also, don't forget that you need the HDRI, no HDRI. We need the plane on which car will be moving, so let's just make it bigger, because on this plane it will be standing properly, the wheels on the ground on the HDRI. Otherwise it will be a little bit dipped inside the HDRI, which we don't really want. And this is it. It's like traveling, but for this purpose we will be only rendering from frame number 6 to frame number 7. As I mentioned before, it's really good way and easy way to get some motion blur on HDRIs which don't have motion blur in them. And you don't need to add this motion blur on post, because otherwise you would probably need to render this picture twice, without the car and with the car. Because if you have the masks for the Cryptomate, and when you try to render it with the car and try to, blur that out, you will still be, the blur in the post process will be also blurring the car, which is like, even if you're using the layer underneath the car, you will have this like weird stretches of the car too, and we really would like to avoid that. So this is the best alternative method for rendering our car in that case. And the last part of those dynamic stills, we will just create simple animation for camera movement for this car and a little bit of like shadow and light play for this shot and for that shot. So basically we'll have two of them a little bit differently worked out, but anyway, this is how we would like to do this, the last shot, so you can have the idea of how to play around with shadow and light. So in our sequences again, let's create the new level sequence, cinematics, level sequence, that would be minimal, or what it was called, Polestar. 001, and we'll just open that one. We will make it 24 FPS and add our cinema camera actor number 1 there. So that will be our first one, and we'll just duplicate that one, delete the camera cuts in cinema camera actor, and add the camera actor 2. So we'll have 2 shots in preparation, both 24 FPS, all works good. So in this shot, basically the camera will be going from I think from here, just a little bit small zoom, like really smooth transition, like for 4 seconds approximately. So let's go here, 48, 84 frames, 96 probably. Let's make it like 4 seconds exactly. Okay, so that should be going forward. Just let's move here, put it like this, and just move a little bit further. Okay, cool. Transform, and this is our animation, basically like the one which we have here. And we will also animate. There are 2 ways to animate the light. You can obviously add track actor and add directional light as some sort of like sun play here, and add the transform track, hit transform, and after that you can just like rotate like this, so you are in charge of what is moving on or what is not moving on, or and after that you can add transform again for another keyframe, or you can basically use the rotation for roll, pitch, and yaw, but I don't do that because it's better for me just like press Ctrl L on the keyboard and rotate the sun whatever I want. So that's option number 1, how to do it. And the second option is to use this cube which is created here, and basically, you know, when I'm in camera, if I just like move it down, it will reveal the car, right? And we'll have a nice light. That mostly depends on scenario you are willing to go, because changing the light direction will also cast, you know, a little bit of sun going on the shape of the car. Here we can see the shape really good. This is like dark, this one is lighter, so we can see the shape really good. And this is just the option not to change the light, so keep the light consistent, but still introduce that sort of, you know, animation and playing with the shadows and light. And alternatively, as I said, you can just like animate it like this, or even like rotate it completely, whatever you prefer. So you can do whatever you want. Maybe you would like to make it like this. So let's first make it like from dark here. Let's transform our directional light, hit transform. Let's delete our previous keyframes, we don't want them, like this. And it should probably set up the light before the movement of our camera finishes. So let's move it like this probably. I like the shape which it draws on the wall behind here like this. And let's set transform. So we will have something like that. But I think it moves too fast, so let's move this to linear and see how it is going. I think it's good. Probably we can even finish it a little bit later. Yes, like that. So that one simple option which you can do with the animating of the directional light. But let's delete all those keyframes and add our cube to the sequence. And basically we will animate the transform of our cube. Here it will start there, and at frame 70 something we can just like pick transform, go to location, and in this location Z axis we can just like pick it up and go down, move it out of the frame. So we will have this nice like sharp shape on the car, which is just like slicing it and like introducing this one. During that, you can also play with the intensity of the directional light and of the HD light, maybe reveal it from like dark to more light. So that just only depends on you, how you prefer that. I actually like the first version better probably, but I like the lighting here. So I think for this option, like this, let's say stay at the middle ground, I'll remove this one completely. I'll remove this one, and I will go with a directional light, which will reveal our car. So I'll move it first like that, probably. So it will be darker. Directional light, transform. And on the frame 72, I'll just bring it back and set it like this. Transform. Make the first frame linear. Yep, that looks fine for me. Maybe I will make it longer because I would like to make it to move it slower. Yes. Okay, so that's a middle ground of what we were expecting, so that looks really nice. Second one is Polestar number 2. There's the lots and lots of like artificial lights, and we can animate each of them separately. So if you would like to introduce some light play, so for example, if I like pick all of the lights which I put there, just all of them, and for example, hide them for a moment. And also don't forget that you need to disable the directional light, so because it also like leaks through the roof for some reason. So yeah, you need to disable that. So, and for example, we have only 2 lights. This one actually we can also hide for now. So really that depends only on you. If you'd like to make some light play, maybe let's add this one, add to sequencer and change the intensity from 0, right? Just like let's go 0, and let's make it like 50-20, doesn't matter. So you have a nice like shape reveal, right? And for this, just for demonstration purposes, I will just make this with all the lights, so we will have all the scene like appearing at the same time. So let's delete the intensity keyframes and basically delete the rec light for now from this environment. So let's pick all of that things, all of the lights, just like let's get them like that. Yeah, I think I got all of them. So add actor to sequencer, 11 elements, but that doesn't matter. We can just like set up the intensity for all of them. So as it is right now, so here we will get the intensity of what it is at this current moment and position. You can move the lights too, so we will do that a little bit. Okay, intensity there, here. And in the very first frame, I would just like to make intensity for all of them at 0. So they will just ignite at some point. Let's pick them all here. Okay. Hope I didn't forget anything. So we will see anyway. So here I select all of those keyframes and set it to 0. And directional light, because it also is needed for our other shot, which will be rendering. So this directional light, we would need just to set up actor hidden in game and set this keyframe here and disable it. So, and if we look right now, that will be lighting the whole our scene, except this light. This one, is it there? Oh yeah, that's the one which I forgot, right? So let's set up here and increase the intensity so we can see a little bit of foreground, maybe 40, something like that, right? So yeah, and it will be just like rendering right now. Okay, so for this is done. Just like let's maybe move our like this light and add some movement for the shot, so that will be doing some like interesting light shape. So let's add transform track for this one, move here when it's all ignited, and let's heal transform. That will be our last position, and our first position is somewhere over there, and let's move it just to the side, so we will have some like different movement of the light, and it will be just like see drawing the shape, right? So it's just like goes, and that is like really beautiful reveal. I like how that looks. So for now, this is just a demonstration before we render. So we have multiple shots to render. And those like the things which I call dynamic stills, because they're technically they're stills. The car is still, but you are still working on animation of camera of some sort.